in just about a week, there will be publicly released a new movie inspired by the most recent book of Dan Brown, entitled Angels and Demons. Now, Dan Brown is the same gentleman, let's talk about this for just a second. He is the same gentleman that wrote the book, The Da Vinci Code. The Da Vinci Code created a stir of controversy just about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, because of its suggestion that Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene, produced a child, that child produced a royal bloodline that continues even today, and that the Roman Catholic Church, because of its insistence on the celibacy of Jesus, worked very hard to cover up the marriage, to cover up the child, and there has been a conspiracy and a tug of war between the two over the last 2,000 years. Now, most of that is fiction. It is based upon some items that indeed are true, but the conclusion that is drawn is primarily a fictitious one. And of course, the church has survived both Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code. Amen. And us ain't gone nowhere as a result of his contention. You need to understand that Dan Brown primarily and foremost is a writer for the purpose of entertainment. He is a writer for the purpose of entertainment, and so his chief goal is to sell books. And the more controversial the subject matter, the more books that will be sold. Now, the Illuminati is a central theme and a central character in this book, Angels and Demons. It will be released as a movie in the next week or so. It's today. It comes out today. I thought it was yesterday? Yesterday. I knew I was supposed to be at the movies yesterday. I just finished reading the book. It's an intriguing book. But Dan Brown is a writer. He's writing for entertainment. He's writing to sell books. But here is what is curious. What is curious is that Dan Brown uses enough facts and truth to make his stories convincing. And that's the point that I need you to understand. That a mixture of truth. In other words, let me put it to you this way. A half truth is worse than a whole lie. Let me say that again. A half truth is worse than a whole lie. Because the portion that is true can be convincing and persuasive enough to cause one to believe the entirety of the proposition, even the untruthful part. So Dan Brown creates a mixture of truth. In Angels and Demons, and Angels and Demons actually was written prior to the Da Vinci Code, even though it has come out a bit later. This was a book that he wrote prior to his writing of the Da Vinci Code. It is almost as though a songwriter can write hundreds of songs, but his 80th song is the one that's a hit and the one that everybody's talking about. Well, once it becomes a hit and he becomes popular over that tune, then the public has a way of going back to tune number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and resurrecting those tunes now because they've been impressed with a later tune. Well, it's the same thing here. It was the Da Vinci Code that brought to Dan Brown world renown. Now that he is a world-renowned author, the public has gone back and taken some of his earlier works and have popularized them as well. And so Angels and Demons is actually a is an earlier work. What is interesting is that in September, Dan Brown is releasing his new book entitled The Symbol. We don't know exactly what that's going to be about yet, but he is planning another work that will be released in September. Okay, here is the storyline of Angels. It is a story set in Rome, in the Vatican, while the Vatican is in the process of selecting a new pope. Current pope has died. He needs to be replaced. And of course, the replacement of the pope is an action that is performed by the College of Cardinals. Now that's important. And it is the history and the tradition of the Roman Catholic Church that when there is a vacancy in the office of the Pope, the entire church does not select the new Pope. There exists the Cardinalate, which is a collection of cardinals from around the world who come to Rome, sit in private session, and deliberate until they can decide and elect a member of their class, a cardinal, who will then become the new pope. They lock themselves into an area called the Sistine Chapel. There they remain undisturbed, uninterrupted, until the task of electing a new pope is performed. They signal their progress by burning the ballots of each round. They treat those ballots with a certain chemical. If the ballots do not render a new pope, they treat it with a certain chemical that burns the ballots with black smoke. And black smoke comes from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel. Once they elect a new pope, the chemical is changed, the smoke turns white, and the appearance of the white smoke signals to the public that a new pope has been elected. Most of you have seen this take place 2 times during your lifetime. One with Pope John Paul I, and the second with Pope John Paul II. And of course, the Pope Benedict XVII is the most recent selection of a pope. Usually, people do not see this except maybe once in their lifetime, because the position of pope is a permanent position. It is a lifelong position. Okay, the plot that surrounds Angels and Demons is that the Cardinalate is in the process of selecting a new pope. There is a secret society called the Illuminati that is attempting to disrupt the process by having placed a bomb in Rome and kidnapped the chief candidates or the leading candidates to be elected as pope. Now,